Hello everyone, in this video we'll try to learn how to change save version in Blender video editor. What is save version and then how to change that, right? We'll focus on that part. So let's just open up any of the saved file. So let me just take this one. So this is the previous project, right? I was working with that. By default, right, my all the saved files are going into this directory. So there's lots of other stuffs are already there. For clarity, right, let's just create a new folder. I'll create it as save history. I've created this folder. We'll save the files here so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. So let me just save this file as I'll first initially, because I have to save once, right? I'll just save it in new folder, which is save history, which I've created now. And then I'll type blender text as save file. So if I do, right, so by default, it should create here a file. So if you see it, this is what it got created. So now, right, the default setting in Blender, when you try to save something, right, let me just do what I'll do. I'll just delete this, and then if I type save, right, so what happens, Blender will create the original content save as, right, it just renames as Blend1. So if you see, right, the name is Blend1, and then the current one it created as animate text. So that is what it is trying to do. So now, right, what happens if I again try to do it, right? Let me just again, if I type save Control S, right? So what does it, right? Whatever the contents are there in this, so they just takes the copy of that. It creates a version of this and then just renames, and then the newer one it just saves that. So it's just nothing but one backup version you will be saving by default, right? Blender, how it is configured. So but if you want to change, right, if you want any additional, suppose if you're working with a complex project and then you want to have multiple saves, maybe more than one, right? So in this scenario, right, what we can do is, right, I'll just show you what you have to do. You go to edit preferences, and then I'll just maximize this. There is an option like save and load. In the save and load, right, so what happens, there is a by default, if you see it, save version is set to 1. Let me change it to 3. Okay, I've changed it to 3, and then I'll close it. Now if I go here, right, and then let me just change any of that things. I'll just change it to 121 here, and then if I try to save, right, this time if you see it created one more version. So like this, if I try to go in one more time, right, it has to create 3 versions. So now if you see it, because we have set there 3, so Blender will create the 3 versions. If you do any modifications, if you are working with complex projects and then you want to have different types of versions, right, so that you can go back at any point in time, so you can create this. Let me just again, if I try to do Control S, right, this time it doesn't create any additional because we have set it to only 3, right? So it will just replace the older one. So let me just try to do this one, Control yes. So now if you see it doesn't happening anything, but in a background, right, what is happening, it is replacing the older one and I'm trying to replace with the recent one kind of stuff. So let me just do, I'll just delete this, and then if I try to again save, right, so now if you see it is just only keeping the 3 versions. So but let's just suppose, right, in some scenarios you don't want, because if you're working with huge sizes, right, and then it takes huge sizes as well, right? So you don't want, sometimes you want to have just only one version. I don't want, and if you try to do save, right, it just overwrites if you want to overwrite this existing file only, right? So in this scenario, right, we'll just change it to 0. Let me just change it here, and then I'll set it as 0. In this scenario, right, what will happen, so when you try to save, right, it just replaces this only existing file. So let me just save this now. If you see it is just replacing that, so it's not getting. But for the understanding sake, I'll just delete these files. I'll modify, I'll just make it as again 22, maybe I'll make it as 22 this time, and then if I try to save, right, so if you see it is not changing, it is saving on top of this file. Let me just to move here, and then after type again Control S, right, it's just replacing and then saving the latest version of here. So this is what how you can modify save version for Blender. And there is one other options which I want to show you is recent files. So by default, right, Blender is recent file limit is 20, so you can decrease or increase based on your requirement. So how it works, right, if I go here and then just show here it, so it will give you these all recent file option, right? So if you want to increase it, you can do that. If you want to decrease it, you can do that as well. So this is what I want to cover in this video. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.